So we're here in Marin County, just north of San Francisco, and we're going to meet a few really interesting people and learn a lot about the history of mountain biking.
Yeah, which of course mountain biking fundamentally started in Marin County way back in time, and we're going to go and chat to three of those founding fathers.
So we're now in Fairfax, which is home of the Museum of Bicycling, but also for me it's a really famous place. It's Repack, the original downhill track.
Yeah, it's kind of funny actually thinking of mountain biking, the original part of it was downhill racing.
Yeah.
Technically, these guys pushing these old paperboy modified bikes up to the top of that mountain over there.
So this is where it was invented, but there's some dispute of where people rode off-road the first time, but there's no dispute this is where people like Charlie Kelly, Joe Breeze, Gary Fisher, this is where the first bikes were made. Yeah,
and hopefully we're going to see the very first bike, or at least an iteration of that.
So we've been driving around Marin, I call it Marin, growing up in the UK in the early 90s, you see the bikes, but actually it's called Marin, isn't it, of course?
Marin County, yeah.
There's loads of famous names from the bike company, like Palisades Trail,
Bear Valley,
Muir Woods.
Yeah, they're all here as street names.
Recognise all the names.
Yeah, it's really cool to see.
It's almost the mecca of mountain biking. I'm going to take a look round. We're 30 minutes north of San Francisco, so it seems crazy to come straight out of the city. You're into this amazing landscape. It looks like there's some amazing trails up in the woods as well.
Yeah, you can see why it sort of lends itself so perfectly to mountain biking.
It's a little bit hippie. It's kind of really affluent around here. But
very much so, yeah.
Loads of cool old camper vans and stuff driving around. It's a cool place.
I mean, a lot of those early stories I heard were it was always an affluent place.
Yeah.
And it was almost frowned upon that these repack riders back in the day were doing something so against the grain in society.
There's loads of cool street art as well in Fairfax. We saw that stuff.
Yeah,
all about
really
Repack.
cool. Loads of stuff detailing sort of the GPS coordinates of that original. Right, I'm hoping we can go to see that ourselves.
I know, I really want to get up there. Like, I used to race downhill as a pro, and it's like, this is where it all started. I've got to go and see it. I'd love to go and do a flat out run down it. So it's time for a history lesson. We've got a couple of very important people to tell us all about mountain biking.
Somewhere we have always wanted to go. Let's go and check it out. Walking in, we were greeted by Charlie Kelly and given a tour of the fascinating bike history in the museum. Charlie Kelly's a real character. Growing up in Marin County, he was a keen cyclist who helped organise the Velo Club Tamalpais, a roadie for the psychedelic rock band The Grateful Dead, organiser of Repack races and the co-founder of the mountain bikes company alongside Gary Fisher.
I was hanging out with this Grateful Dead head girl who said, "Man, I know this guy who's just like you. He's this hippie bike fanatic, you know, and hangs out with the Grateful Dead. You're the Sons of Champlain roadie. You guys would just like immediately be friends." And the day I saw him, he's only the second guy I'd ever seen on a soft tire bike. We introduced ourselves to each other and, you know, history and all that. But that's how I met Gary.
Gary Fisher, a fast young road racer that was temporarily banned for his hair being too long. He met Charlie through his shared love of the Grateful Dead. He was right there at the start of mountain biking. In fact, he was considered, along with Charlie and Joe, as one of the inventors of the modern mountain bike.
We're driving down the road, and here's this kid hitchhiking, and he had a beard down to here, he had hair down to here, and pick him up, you know, and slides in. And so we just became friends from that moment on, you know, and of course, as you can clearly see, we've been dear friends for 45 years now.
Yeah. Joe Breeze, a bicycle frame builder that turned his hand to designing and building the very first all-new mountain bikes and amongst the fastest racers on Repack.
Gary and Joe are the two guys I've shared most of the adventure in my life with, you know. There's a bond there that just you can't duplicate.
Repack is the name of the racing that took place on the slopes of Mount Tamalpais above the town of Fairfax. A downhill time trial dropping 300 metres with an average grade of 14 degrees. The winners became legends around town.
The course was selected for a number of factors. One, it's here, right? Two, it's really steep, it's a super challenge. And third, when you're done, you're home, you know? The race really went on for about maybe three and a half years, the real heyday of that race. And by the end of that era, it was known to be the best free show in Fairfax.
But this was a big deal. I'd walk through town and people would stagger out of the bars and say, "You gotta win next week, Gary. My money's on you," you know, and all this stuff. And it was like, people would walk out there to the woods to see it. And when I go around looking for prizes, no problem.
Everybody knew when the race was, and in addition to all the participants, the girlfriends and the wives and the friends, well, they'd hike into the bottom because that's where most of the really hard turns were near the bottom anyway, where all the photos were taken. Now, Joe was the immediate catalyst, but if it wasn't him, it was going to be somebody else because the bike was going to evolve to deal with the environment. And if the environment is going really fast downhill on something rough, well, you're going to come up with big tires. You're going to come up with a different geometry. And Joe was the guy who did it.
Charlie Kelly, who came to me and one day and says, hey, build me a new frame. I'm tired of busting these old frames. And I'm looking at him like, well, aren't we just having fun out here? You want me to get serious about this now? And so he says, yeah, and he starts waving about $300 in front of me or so. And then I think, well, I can probably get tubing for 10 frames for that. And that's what I did. And I drew them up very carefully with a side view and a top view, make sure everything was going to work out. This is the prototype, this Breezer. It's the first time you had a frame built specifically for what we're doing, outfitted with all brand new parts. First shiny new mountain bike, essentially.
The first few trips down it, we all were riding on coaster brakes. Well, all the heat from that friction that you need to slow down all goes into something the size of your fist. And that thing is just about white hot because of the smoke just pouring out of those hubs. And the grease would be running down the spokes there. And if you let the thing cool off, it would just howl. You had to go home and repack it with grease, otherwise it was just howling and howling.
Legend says that this small group of riders actually invented mountain biking.
We really changed people's perception of what a bike is. I mean, totally changed their perception of what a bicycle is and what it could do and everything. Once they try it, there's no going back.
We didn't invent the mountain bike. The bike was, somebody invented a bike a long time ago. What we invented, if anything, was a new way to use a bike, which is race downhill on bad roads. But I think if anybody else had come up with the same idea of racing downhill, probably would have evolved similarly. And we just happen to be the guys that live at the Waimea Bay of mountain biking.
Sure.
You know, where those guys sit on the beach and look at the waves every day, all day. And I say, the guys who invented surfing didn't drive to the beach, they lived there. You know, we live at the mountain biking beach. And
Gary Fisher still holds a record time for Repack, 4 minutes 22. Mountain biking eventually moved on and the local authorities made it more difficult to ride the trail. The last two Repack races in 1983 and 84 were a bit for old time's sake. After the 1984 race, Marin County land and water managers made it clear that Repack, the race, could be no more. There was little resistance, the race's time had come and gone. But could the time theoretically be beaten?
It's I did a good time on it, but it could be broken. There's no doubt about it. You know, somebody's a faster pedaler than I was. And the bikes are certainly better, you know, than what we were running.
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Got some good swag as well. I'll tell you what, I can't believe I used to ride that stuff on those bikes. It's ridiculous.
It's only over there, Doddy.
I know, we haven't got any bikes though, so...
I've got a good idea. Don't worry, I've sorted us some bikes. I'm just going to have to pull straws. Who rides what?
Okay, I'll see where this is going.
This one isn't even the short straw.
Okay, pretty good condition that. Nice saddle, nice crispy orange chain, wide control handlebars, stem like a tiller on a canal boat. Very good.
This is... Oh, hello. Your very best beach cruiser.
There's no brakes on that thing.
Coaster brake.
Ah.
That's what the boys did back in the day, so if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us.
I think those forks are bent as well.
Unlucky.
Well, at least my brakes aren't on the wrong way around.
That's true.
Why are you pushing the bike, God?
It's not an optimum climbing position kind of bike. I think you'll find that the guys at Repack back in the day used to push their bikes all the way up the top until someone decided to put twin chainrings on them. This has got one gear, so I think you'll find I'm exempt from climbing. But it's flat now, so I should probably go.
That's it, we're at Repack, home of Donell mountain bike racing. For me, I'm so excited.
Slightly nervous.
You're not excited? I'm excited.
All right, I'm laughing at the bikes, but back in the day, their bikes probably weighed as much as both of these.
40 pounds or something.
Well, that original one was over 50, I think, that Breezer #1. Rather than, this is not going to work like we thought. Well, not going to work like he thought anyway. It might do for him, but I'm hoping he forgets his brakes the wrong way around, because that's the only chance I have.
I think he's changed them to the right way round.
Has he? Oh, damn. I'm genuinely concerned. What you can't see is there is actually enough gradient here that as soon as you're off the brakes, you're in trouble. And there aren't any brakes except for the one that doesn't do anything. Cool, at least I'm going to look really good doing it. I can't even get my feet in the right position. This is genuinely scary. It may not look it at these breakneck speeds, but this is genuinely.
What do you think of that, Doddy?
It's all right.
Right, dude, sorry you drew the short straw, and these corners have been a lot of fun, but I feel like I've got to go to top.
Yeah, someone has to.
May never get a chance again. I'm going to push all the way to top and do a full run of Repack.
Stoked. Enjoy. So while you've been up there top of that mountain, I've been in here in Gestel House, local bikers pub, having a couple of beers. I've got to tell you, I did get a short straw there.
You did?
It wasn't even enjoyable, I've got to say. I have to come back another time.
To be honest, it was hard work on the bike I had, never mind yours.
How long did it take you to get up there?
It took me about 40 minutes to hike to the top, but it was worth it. The views are amazing, and it's just really nice to be up there. Turned round, came back down. I've got to say, it's pretty tame by, you know, mountain bike trail, obviously it's fire road, but once you come down it fast, there's blind brows, and it's like a roller coaster whole way, blind corners, fast, drifty. I loved it, it was amazing. They used to do it on those bikes, that is incredible. They must have been.
So they were fully tapped then, back then?
I'm impressed.
Wow, there you go, that's pretty cool.
But it's good to do it. Cheers for that.